Oh, you know who else I got regrets from, Lisa, was Con Breaky. EPMC ambulance.
Okay, I don't see that.
He's an external stakeholder.
I'm sorry, what was the name?
Con, C-O-N-N, Breaky, B-R-E-A-K-Y. He's the unit chief of this district at BC Ambulance Service.
Unit Chief, BC Ambulance Service?
Sure. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. I would like to start the meeting and ask that if anyone can approve the agenda. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda that they would like to discuss today? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Ian and Carolyn can second that. Thank you. And then I hope everyone got a chance to look at the minutes from last meeting, which was in December. And we can approve the minutes of that meeting as well. Can I get a motion to approve this? Paula, thank you.
My first time.
Exciting for you. Does anyone want to second that?
Sure, I can, Robin.
Thanks, Robin. Good. Okay, well, you can just quickly do 2-minute updates from everyone as we are. Okay, 2, 20, whatever you're comfortable with. But quick updates from everybody about what you've been up to over the holidays if you want to let us know. Anything fixed?
Sure. You don't want to know what I was sick over the holidays. I won't tell you that. I'm going away for 5 weeks, but while I'm away, I'm going to be going through this project book, which is youth programs for emergency preparedness, and seeing what's applicable to the youth on Bowen Island, to try to recruit them to help out with the emergency program and to encourage personal preparedness in their families. And Denise is going to help me with that once we go through these. The other thing is I'm going to review the Introduction to Emergency Social Services, because we're going to facilitate a course for the communications program, Bruce and the Bears, and anybody else that wants to attend just to see what the course is about. There'll be an exam, but it won't be one that that you're graded on. Just be sort of a, all together exam, so we just do things. And we're participating in the safety event that's on Sunday with all our ESS info, the emergency supplies, the demos, and people will be able to order emergency products again. And over the Christmas holidays and that, we sold quite a few and are continuing to sell the emergency supplies to people on the island for preparedness. And I sent out an email to the volunteers and anybody that's on my ESS list to just give me some input on how we can recruit more volunteers in the emergency program through any kind of social community groups or whatever on the island. So I'm waiting for input on that. And that's it. Thank you.
So I don't have a lot to report. As far as the NERPs are concerned, we have 2 dates. One is January 26th, and the other one is February 19th. January 26th is the Tunstall Bay. Just a few people are gathering, and the 19th is Sealy Beach or Sealy area. And a few people are gathering there, and with me will be Ann Dingwall and perhaps Bruce. He's talked about joining me. And we're going to sit down with these 2 little community areas, talk a little bit about what's going on, and ask that the pamphlets, the ENS, the emergency notification pamphlets, and the BC preparedness pamphlets for household and personal preparedness pamphlets be distributed in their communities. So we're going to give them each like 10 and just go. But also introduce themselves and make a little bit more community awareness. And then on a third part of it is going to be requesting from them from the people they contact, whether they have anything to offer NERPS or ESS, any special skills or anything that we might be needing to know about. So there's going to be a little compilation of any information that will go then back to you guys as it comes through that. So we also have plans for Bowen Bay to reconnect. We're working on that, Anne and I. And I still have to connect back with Blue Water to do the same thing. So we're kind of doing that reconnection and still grounding it, opening it up. Plans will then be to go throughout the island in that slow, systemic fashion. Other than that, working on the spiritual care, I made contact with Phil Atkins of the chapel and Sheila McKinnon of the Little Red Church. I made contact with a few others, but I haven't had a chance to talk. And they're really excited about the idea of bringing in John McEwen. And that I'm going to go have a visit with him in a couple of weeks. I think it's next week. And he's going to go through the syllabus of information with me, just to give you an idea of what's going to be presented. And then I'm going to bring it back to them, in probably as best as I can, whatever he allows me to do. And we're going to see if there's anything that Bowen Island needs specifically as far as spiritual care that's unique to us.
That's awesome.
So we're going to work a little bit as a team and then bring them in, so we'll have a little bit of a grounding and be able to then, connect with the rest of the community when we do the bigger program.
It's really smart.
So that feels really good. It feels grounded and feels exciting. As far as I spoke a little bit about Buddhism and the nuns last time. That's not going to happen in the way that I want to happen. They're going to come on the 28th. Their time may be limited due to their teaching program. And so I'm not too sure whether the community is going to be able to actually engage with them. But you might see me walking around with a couple of Buddhist nuns. You could say hi. I think that's about it for now.
Thanks.
I don't have much to report. Shall I report the couple of things we've discussed today, or is that relevant
Go
for
ahead,
the
yeah.
committee? Yeah. So one of the things that Jen and I have been working on for a couple of months now is a recommendation, I think we discussed at one of our meetings, is a recommendation for the community center, and that it be built, I did some code research, and that it be built to what's called the high importance factor, and that means that it's been identified as having some uses post-disaster. So it's a level between standard code and then, so standard code is number 1, like 100% number 1, and then post-disaster, which is our new fire hall and EOC, is a 1.5, and that has its whole other level of requirements. So the high importance factor, which schools are built to, is 1.3. So it's essentially a midway point. It's saying it's above code, but it's not to that really rigorous post-disaster standard. So we have been in communication with the project manager and the committee for the community center to relay our feelings that it should be built to this standard. And there's been a bit of discussion back and forth as to whether that's standard per code or not. And in our opinion, on reviewing the code, there's some discretion, there's some subjectivity into how it could be used. Like the language is if it's likely to be used as a shelter post-disaster, it should be built this way, which to me leaves a lot of room for interpretation. So our recommendation is that Bowen Island municipality should consider that yes, it will definitely be used post-disaster, whether for a reception center or not, but simply for the municipal hall functions. It really has to be up and running relatively quickly. So in our minds, it must be built to that standard, and then we just want to make sure that gets communicated through to the committee and the project manager and the consultants and the people designing it. So that was our recommendation we sent off today, so we'll just keep following up and hopefully that happens. I don't know if anybody has thoughts or input on that, but
Yeah, I know we've discussed it at
Yeah.
this committee, and I had sort of said that I got back to them, and
Yeah.
then they got back to me, so there's been more back and forth.
it's been a very slow email exchange, like once a month kind of back and forth or whatever. So yeah, slow and steady. And then the second thing we discussed is to be included in a grant proposal to put in for Bowen Island's own post-disaster building assessment plan. So to get some funding to be able to create that. And the reason why I'm hoping it'll happen this year is because of the project that I'm working on, which is creating a framework for post-disaster building assessment, and it's finishing up this year. So if Bowen Island's able to get some funding and work on creating that plan this year, it can be used as a case study, and also be kind of get the benefit of this whole process with this team of experts we're working with. So if it can be created this year, it can be mutually beneficial, I think, to everybody. And it would be a case study of a small community having that plan. So yeah, that's what we've moved on.
Christine, I haven't been so busy as far as emergency preparedness goes.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Just been sort of doing day-to-day stuff, so I don't think I really have anything new to say. I think we're going to be looking at purchasing some spill response equipment, preliminary, and maybe I'll sit down with Ian and go over what I learned at the spill response course and figure out what budget and where and what we need. And yeah.
We're also trying to set up a meeting with the Western Canada Marine Response Corporation. So that's the private entity that's funded by industry to respond to spills. And they have, they've just done a lot of mapping of this area that they're happy to share with us and potentially receive input on if we have anything else to contribute. And then to show us sort of their facilities and their capabilities and talk about how we would work together if there were a large spill off the coast of Bowen. So Bonnie and I are still trying to organize when we might do that sometime this year, maybe early this year ideally. But yeah, thinking to the booms, I should really keep that top of mind, because if we receive all these grants from UBCM, then there is a little bit more room in my budget. It goes from, the emergency program budget is $12,000 a year, and the grants we're applying for, I believe a value of $75,000. So it would really obviously make for a bigger budget this year for me to get those. So yeah, there might be room for booming.
Yeah, that's great, because I just know the Parks and Environment budget is pretty tapped even already. We haven't really gotten into the nitty-gritty.
I got through my
but-
12,000 pretty fast. Okay, thanks, Bonnie.
We didn't have anything too urgent, I guess, as far as Bowen Island would be involved in requiring emergency resources too much this winter so far. One thing that just prompted me is that one thing I'm working on is trying to get a third police car here on Bowen, which is ideal. I know it's just why do you need it if it's been good for so long. We've been making it work for so long, right? It's going to take the one incident that both of us are on the other side, and then backup comes and we're stuck. And it also helps as well if all three of us are on the island and something happens, we all have a transportation. The other thing is I have a stats article coming out under current, just the stats of 2017 in comparison to the last 5 years. And I'm actually going to meet with Mary Beth after this meeting just to add some other things, because I was like, oh, I've got to add the fact that for people to get, it's, you know, on the side note, getting them to the emergency kits at their homes and Bowen emergency system. No.
Notification system?
Notification system, not emergency, yeah. So, yeah, that's going to be coming out. That's all.
Out of curiosity, are the stats comparable, like, have things escalated, or are they pretty standard over?
They kind of were, I think, more than 5 years ago, it was up. Like, a lot of things were up, it looked like. But before I got here, a few years before I got here, they seemed to go down, and now they're pretty stable.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it used to be a little bit more hopping back then. Which is
That's
good.
when we were all younger.
Yeah,
I can't walk so well anymore.
that's right. Now they're all parents and need to be responsible.
Well, on my end, emergency-wise, the only thing we really did this year for the Christmas gifts that we give out to all the memberships, we gave them the 72-hour packs for a two-person pack. So I think they were quite well received. A lot of guys were tired of getting jackets and T-shirts and whatever, so this is kind of a good one. And regarding the fire hall, the only thing we've done right now is cleared the lot, and everything else has come to a grinding halt. So. And that's it.
There will be progress.
Hopefully.
So I won't go through everything I've been working on in the last month, but some of the highlights. Still really waiting for word from the ESS grant. So the first grant we applied for was for $25,000 for the Emergency Support Services Group. And we should know within the next 6 days whether or not we got that. So I'm checking my email every few seconds. And then I'm working on the EOC grant in the next like 2 weeks, and that's actually on the agenda, so I'll hold off on talking about that. And then we're doing the public safety event this Sunday, so that was really spearheaded by the AED volunteers, and it's really AED focused, but it's also sort of it's labeled, and it will be a community safety event as well, so it should be a fun day hopefully, and quick, just a couple hours. Are you going to be there, Paula?
On Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. I know Z is coming.
Oh, did she say she was coming? 'Cause
She
I asked her to
told
go.
Amanda that she
Good.
was going to be there.
Yeah, I'm taking off for a week, but on 22nd, so it was a day off, but I'll come back.
That's nice of you.
Thank you. So otherwise, I think things are going to be a little bit quiet for the next few months. Carolyn's out of town. I'm, going to Costa Rica in about 6 weeks, and just sort of waiting to hear about these grants and submitting them. But obviously, when I get back at the end of March, things might be really busy if we have a lot of money to spend, and it'll be time at that point to start updating the emergency management plan. So that'll keep us busy in the future. I think that's it for my update. So we'll just quickly go through, thanks everyone for that. Not hearing what everybody's up to.
Sorry, Jen, just one question for you. Maybe you covered it. I'm
Probably
sorry
not.
I was late. How many hours, so are you on still full-time?
Oh, that question.
Yeah,
It's
I
very
just was wondering how
confusing.
many hours.
So currently I'm at 2 days a week, and I'll stay that way until Costa Rica, when I'm not here at all. And then at the end of April, assuming that these grants come through and that the executive committee does want us to update the management plan, which I'm assuming because that's why I was hired, I believe it'll go back to full-time at that point.
Good, that's great.
Yeah, so part-time for the next 6 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay, so action items. Since June, we've been talking about creating a work plan that aligns with our mandates. So there's an executive committee meeting next week, and I'm going to speak to that committee about how we formally interact. I mean, obviously they set the direction and we execute their mandate to some degree, but there is also room, in my opinion, for us to make suggestions to them. Here's what we'd like to see or do or get done this year. So I'm going to firm up with that group next week how exactly that relationship works. But I think it's fair to say we can go ahead and identify important projects that we want to see done and make those recommendations to that group. So I'll leave that as ongoing, but I am actually working on it. I can't speak to Sherry's action item about the field hospital kit, but I did see an email chain, I think I mentioned this already, where they're talking about coming to pick it up, the Public Health Agency of Canada. So there's some talk of it leaving, although I don't know about a replacement. We're leaving the West Ham School District Quake Cottage issue for now. The public outreach and education should be part of our work plan. I could actually probably consolidate some of these just to make it, we don't have to take notes on every single thing I'm seeing. So. And then include RDA on future agenda for discussion. I think that's going to remain as an ongoing issue because if we do get a grant that allows us to write the plan, that'll come back to this committee numerous times for feedback and input. We are continuing to follow up with the community center project, as you heard. So recent ones, these have been done. The notification system being included in the newcomers guide has been added to their list of things to include when it's updated. The visitor center and island B&Bs I'm still working on. I have a meeting next week regarding that. Write a report defining disaster support hubs. Oh, I did this and I brought maps to today's meeting, so I'll mark that as done in our next one. Today we're going to discuss the 2018 goals and work plan. That appears twice. We really want to get that done. BC Emergency Health Services, that is going to be addressed at the executive level next week, so the night landing issue. And we will see if we can get any further, sort of taking it to a higher level. I know that Kathy's also working on it from her end. And the final one requests that she notify paramedics. That's been done. Sherry and I had an email exchange about that event that Ian mentioned, and I believe that she is working on it. So I'll update this for the next meeting so that it's reflective of what's been done and what hasn't. Anyone have any comments on the action items? It's kind of boring because it's all me. The two other people aren't here to speak to it. But work continues. Okay. Are we ready to go on to 5.1? Anyone want to talk any more about action items?
One thing I forgot, and I apologize, I don't know where it would fit on the agenda, but it should just be noted, that you're coming on next week on Tuesday to the EDC Business Summit and doing a very short presentation on business continuity
That's
to
right.
the Bowen Business Community.
It's a good reminder I can get that presentation.
It's like 10 minutes
Okay.
and 5 minutes of questions. That's kind of what we're planning on.
Brilliant.
And it's just literally for you guys because we're having the business summit. There's going to be probably at least 70 Bowen Island businesses and nonprofits represented. So I thought it was the perfect opportunity, captive audience, just 10 minutes. This is what business continuity is. This is how you should be prepared. Like just to get them thinking about it if they haven't thought about it at all, and just prompt it in their mind, and then hopefully they can follow up. Or maybe if there's enough interest, we could do a whole session later in the year. You know what I mean? But just I thought we have them in the room. Just throw it at them for 10 minutes and just introduce the concept if none of them thought.
And I'm not a business continuity expert, so if there is a
Oh,
lot of appetite, then maybe we find one and bring them over to the
Exactly.
presentation as part of our sort of public outreach.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure at that event to bring the business-specific emergency preparedness information and the Bowen's info and try and plug that as usual.
Yeah, yeah. So I just think it'll be, we'll report back next time. It should be good. Yeah.
Can I ask about the business meeting?
Business summit.
Business summit, like, was it advertised? Where did
It was. You're welcome to
contact
come.
people?
Do you want to? Well, it was sent out to people. Oh yeah, you're away. It was sent out to people on the EDC, the Economic Development Committee's list from last time. It was sent out to, I wish Steph was here. She's our main contact. It was sent out to a few different ones. It was put on the municipal, I think on the municipal kind of emails. Did we put it much online? I think it was in the paper. Yeah, I think they tried. It was maybe not as much as last time, but we did try to reach out to people.
70 is a lot.
Yeah, we've already got 70, and then I think she's following up with another 10 or 15 that were, for some reason, ambiguous responses. I'm not sure.
No, I just thought I was in touch with what was going on, but I've never heard of it.
Well, no, that's good feedback, though. So
Yeah.
we missed you and others like you. So it's
Yeah, like I've had a business on the island for 30 years.
yeah, and you didn't even hear about the last one, which was a year and a
No.
bit ago. Okay.
And me neither.
And you didn't either. Yeah. Okay. So we're obviously missing something.
You still have time. I mean, Sophie, the communications coordinator, is back on Friday.
Yeah.
Or you
How,
could
so
ask
this is
Janet
good. Sorry, I know
to
we're
help.
taking over this meeting. What would have been a way that you would have, like, if I put it online? Because I can put it on the forum and on Facebook, like now,
That would be good.
just to
On Facebook, on the everything.
on the
but
everything or
also-
the well. It's not really for everything because it's not really meant to be generally for
What
the
about
public.
what Bowen's doing?
Yeah, maybe the events or the,
Yeah.
I think there's a Bowen business page, something like that.
Bones, there's a women's business.
Yeah,
page too.
okay, sorry, don't want to take up too much, but yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And probably posted on the ferry for people that are traveling back and forth, those are their businesses, or
Yeah.
going back and forth, or somehow for the people that are on Bowen that do their stuff at home. I
Yeah,
don't know where, but
yeah.
anyway.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Apologies. Where are we? Oh, I think we're talking the HRBA. Yes, we are. Okay, so I didn't actually include the latest HRBA in this package because you have all seen this document countless times. And I didn't want to murder another tree printing it out, only to have nobody look at it. Thank you. So I'm assuming you all had a chance to look at it electronically in its most current form. There were no substantive changes since the last time you saw it. Lots of minor edits. Thank you so much for everyone that gave me their input. It was fabulous. I don't think anyone suggested anything that didn't get included, so really appreciate the help.
The one thing that I noticed, did you not want a picture of the police station, or because it's not a municipal
You
building?
didn't get a picture?
No, I asked for it. You didn't get it. Well, because the last one you sent by email was the last edited one, like.
Yeah.
That's that's
No,
okay.
I didn't include a picture of the police
So
station.
I'll just send a picture of
It's
me.
not too late. And you're
Or the
right, no,
wooden
because
bounty.
BC Ambulance Station is in there, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether or not it's a municipal.
Yeah, I sent the picture.
No.
I didn't send the picture?
I don't think so. But anyway. I will add the photo of the RCMP station. If you don't have one or can't send it for any reason, I know Bruce has a great camera and is a good photographer.
I'll send one today.
Okay, sweet. So with that amendment, are we comfortable with the recommendation that the Emergency Management Committee recommend that the Executive Committee adopt the HRBA as presented, well, as amended, with a photo of the RCMP? Is everyone comfortable passing that resolution?
Yes.
Yay. Is it unanimous?
Yes.
Yay! Do I still need to have someone
First and second?
Yeah. Let's just do it anyway.
Why don't we just do it? I will first.
Thank you.
I will move.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So Robin and Bonnie, if you're with us, Lisa. Thanks.
I'm glad someone.
Oh yay! So that's exciting. I'm gonna take that with the photo to the executive committee next week. They'll have some time to give feedback and read it, and then hopefully it goes to council in the near future. Fingers crossed. I'm very excited. Did everyone see Sophie's cover that she put on it?
Yeah, it's nice.
Nice, eh? I'm excited. Okay, thanks everyone. That was fast. So disaster support hubs. This actually may be part of a larger sort of earthquake response plan. I said that before. So if you look at page 49 of 50 in your agendas, I tried to kind of go over what exactly I saw happening. So a lot of this is hijacked straight off of Vancouver's website. The City of Vancouver may be the only ones at this point that have these disaster support hubs. So they're going to be used by individuals and families as well as community organizations. They serve as information centers. They're resource acquisition and distribution hubs. It's a designated location you can initially gather, coordinate, or offer assistance. It can also be a designated location that's in your personal or family emergency plan. These locations will also be where municipal staff and volunteers will prioritize getting information to the public. And they're meant to be a tool that should be incorporated, like I said, into plans for families, neighbors, and community organizations. So where? In Vancouver, they're located at sites where there's enough outdoor space for the public to gather. And as we discussed the exact location and number of sites on Bowen, we're going to come up with a recommendation for ourselves. When are they used? In my mind, these are only for post-earthquake at this point. So any other disaster, we should be able to manage in a different way. So this is an earthquake-specific issue. I know Vancouver doesn't quite do it that way, but that's the vision that I have. So why do we need them? This is so that families, neighbors, and community organizations are better able to work together while municipal staff and emergency service personnel are elsewhere. And then how are we going to make sure that there's information available there? That's also to be determined. So the goal would be to have information, whether it's the municipality or volunteers, able to provide information at those hubs within 3 days of the earthquake occurring. And I thought it was interesting the way Vancouver broke it down into the first hours and days versus days to week. So they were saying in the first hours and maybe even days after the earthquake, this is a community-driven hub. So low-tech, community-led, that's where you meet up with families and neighbors and share resources, whatever they are. And then in the days to weeks after the earthquake, so if we choose 72 hours, then our goal is to be there within 3 days of the earthquake. We would be able to be there providing services. So not just posting information, but finding out how we can assist people. And then potentially distributing resources if we have them, as well as recovery information. So that was sort of the overview that I think was missing when I first introduced this topic. And that's what I have in mind as these hubs sort of providing. Again, I think I mentioned this could be part of an earthquake response plan, but given all the plans that we have and are working on, and that's not on the list at this point, I think it's a good sort of stopgap because we do have an all hazards plan already. If we work on a rapid damage assessment plan and we have disaster support hubs, That's a good start, in my opinion. But you're welcome to disagree if you think that this should be part of a more comprehensive plan and that we should wait on this until we have sort of a bigger picture earthquake response plan. I'm more than happy to receive that feedback. So, with that in mind, oh, that's all I put. I did bring a big map if you want. I know I promised this last time, so I'll just show you guys what I did. Very low tech. Does this work? Maybe I'll just put it on the table. Sorry, Lisa. Okay. So what we have here are the ECT members in green. So roughly where the emergency communications team members live, which would be where amateur radios are located, are these green dots. Okay? And then blue are satellite phones. This is Carolyn McDonald's house. And that's fire hall number 2. Those are the only 2 sat phones that I'm aware of on the island. So those are the forms of communication that are still likely to work post-earthquake specifically. And I thought that that might help inform where we want these hubs. I think I'd actually drawn stars on the map before to say, this is where I think it should be, but I erased them. So I think the key thing to remember is that we have to make this manageable. If we make 6 even, I think that might be too many to be, able to guarantee that we can get to within 72 hours. I expect our resources to be exceptionally limited post-earthquake. So it might make sense, I don't know, does it make sense to designate 1 now where we tell the whole community it's the library? Or should there be 1 in each area? Is this something the NERPs should explore, be involved in, ask each other about? Should it be community-led like it is in Vancouver, municipally led, like it is in Vancouver, where they determine where they are and tell people to go there? Or should we make it more community-led, where we have 1 for the whole island, and then the community comes and gets information or resources from there? I'm not sure. I'm not saying we have to copy what Vancouver is doing, and I just want to reiterate that there are other options, and we really can sort of do what we want with this, to some degree. Anyone have any comments?
I definitely think there should be more than 1.
Okay.
Just because, like, if I'm in Blue Water and somebody's in Hood Point and somebody's at the golf course, like, it's a long way to go to get to the library, depending on the condition of the roads and all of that kind of stuff. So, like, if nothing else, having at least kind of maybe the far corners of the island covered. I don't know, what do you mean by 72 hours? Like, because if we've got radio team members potentially, and that might inform the radio team in terms of recruitment, like, they should theoretically be able to radio some information. But what are you hoping within 72 hours?
That we're present, that we have a
That
presence.
the municipality has a presence there.
That the Emergency Operations Center is able to connect with humans, residents, through those hubs within 3 days.
I think at least 8 from looking at it. 8 hubs, because if you give yourself too many,
Do we have whiteboard markers?
like I said, you won't be able to build it. Because I'm just thinking, if I had no way of transporting myself to a hub, I would like it to at least be in my neighborhood. So I was just thinking Blue Water, Coastal, golf course.
I think Mark them on this weekend.
What would that call the
I'm just gonna randomly.
Yeah, you just.
Blue Water,
Taylor
yeah.
Road?
What'd you say?
So just
Tunstall,
Tunstall,
golf course,
golf course, and then
Oh.
that hub now,
Valhalla.
Valhalla.
and then Snug area,
Cove.
and then Eagle Cliff. Yeah, and then Hood Point, and then Mount Gardner.
Yeah.
I mean, Mount Gardner,
Yeah.
it's not many people, but again, it's a long
somewhat
way to
isolated.
walk
Yeah,
if you need to get to, I don't know, that's just
yeah.
a good start and change.
Like, my preference would be to have an overall big plan for it, like 8, and then say, okay, the first 3 are in, and then kind of just prioritize the
Okay.
development of them. Because I mean, depends what they are, what we imagine they are. Because I know in Vancouver, they're like big sea cams, right? I don't know if that's what they're gonna look like here or not, but depending on what they are and.
Yeah, we could end up consolidating them and say, that's not being used because.
Yeah, or I mean, I'm thinking if we have a plan and we have a goal and then we have an idea of what it is and how much it costs, we can be applying for grants, we can be, you know what I mean? Like, if you have an idea of what's the equipment needed and what it is, if we kind of say, yeah, these are the 8, we identify land, because I think that's probably gonna be one of the biggest things. Where are these gonna go? What municipal land is in those areas? That's probably gonna drive a lot of it, or is there private land that people would donate? I don't, that's probably a pretty big ask. Is there space in a road allowance? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that might be, if we kind of identify it and then actually zoom in on what land is available there, that might start to determine stuff. So yeah, if we kind of start going through those
Yeah, it
steps.
could just be cul-de-sacs in that area, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Denise, when you had your meeting with people in Blue Water, did you discuss that?
It was kind of like we did two things. Had two meetings essentially. The first one was just hello, and there wasn't a lot of discussion about it other than trying to brainstorm on how to access Blue Water, because there isn't anything really happening, there are no nerves. We have Robin here, and we have a new volunteer by the name of Mark Pullen. So we're going to start the access soon. Mark and I are going to talk about that, of reaching out to the area. But we didn't talk anything more than that. That's all we did.
Yeah, I don't expect you to have an answer. What I guess my question about the NERPs was, should the NERPs, as they form, because you're not there yet, you're doing great, but it's still
But
forming.
Bruce mentioned yesterday that there was like 70 people 3 years ago. And we've put out, I put out a fair amount of, hellos, and it's not coming back. So things peter out. People just get grounded and lose that contact.
And because it tried to start and sort of fizzled out so quickly 3 years ago, people are likely to be hesitant to get involved again.
Mhm.
So it might take a little bit of
That's right.
operating with these
That's
small
right.
groups before people rejoin and
Come
get
back
back
in
on
for the
board.
groove, yeah.
But my question was, further down the road, should the NERPs help us in some way or provide input? I think we should move a little bit away from the CCAN idea. That is so far down the road that I'm not even considering it. It's like a bulletin board and a place where someone with a clipboard can take notes and come back to the
So
community
it's
a day
a
later.
10 by 10 pop-up tent and a
If
whiteboard.
it's even a tent at this point.
So years ago, when we had designated areas, kind of like muster stations, for instance, in Hood Point, they've got a tennis court,
No wall hall.
and that's